I see that our attendees are rolling in, so signing into the Zoom call. We're just like at 4 p.m. in the afternoon. But yeah, you know, these twice a year, 2 weeks where things are a little bit off, and I always make a few mistakes myself as to the calendar invitation and making sure people are on the right time and so on and so forth. But yeah, so that is just something we need to deal with.
As long as you show up for your flights and other things on time, where people don't wait for you, that's for sure.
I know. All right. Should we get started slowly? We have had a few things about the trade shows, and now we are continuing down that avenue. And welcome to you, Thomas. A few words about yourself, and then I can go next so the audience know who we are.
Thank you. My name is Thomas. I am based in Los Angeles. I run a consulting firm working with European companies engaging with the US market nationwide. We focus on companies that have solutions in environmental sustainability, but end up working with a range of other companies as well. I am originally from Denmark, but definitely binational. So I've been here for quite some time.
Yeah. My name is Charlotte Nytoft, and I work out of Denmark, but I have lived and worked as well in the United States for a number of years. And like Thomas, I am also helping Danish businesses, primarily Danish businesses, establish their legal entity in the United States, help them bring their team to the United States market or hire local people. And I help also companies with establishing production if they are so inclined. So our businesses are sort of mutual. We supply each other or complement each other very well in our two different businesses with sort of the same approach. And we have a couple of new people attending today. So we have now done our Tuesday talks for almost a year. Next in April, it will be like our 1-year anniversary. So that's fantastic. We have had so many great people attending, and sort of the concept is that Thomas and we are sharing our experience around a certain topic for about 40 minutes, and then we close down and say goodbye, and we record the Tuesday talk, and this will be made available to you later on to replay if there are things you would like to hear once again. Feel free to ask questions in the chat, which we will answer as we go.
And please do feel free to interrupt us for any questions or comments along the way.
Absolutely. So Thomas, should we get ahead of ourselves and get started with
let's dive in.
Let's dive in. We have talked about one of the big topics for Danish businesses is obviously selling through other people, having other people tell your story. And so we made this headline, who are you actually talking to, and are these people that you are talking to actually able to open the door for the customers that are relevant to your business? And why is that such a hassle for Danish businesses to actually get this right? What have you experienced, Thomas?
Well, one thing is it's hard to get a grip on who exactly are your customers and where are they, how to find them. I mean, these are some big fundamental questions. And one of the things that we've talked about before also is, as a European company, you may serve an entire industry, whereas once you start engaging with the US market, what you find is you will really have more than enough business serving a small segment of a region of the country and a small, just a segment of the industry that you would ordinarily serve. And so it's really hard for customers to get a grip on how to find them, who are they, how to talk to them, what's your best point of engagement. And it's very different than it is in Europe.
Exactly. And also sometimes, and I think building on what we have done the past two Tuesday talks is sort of around the trade show and conferences, because sometimes actually the trade show or conference, let's just call it trade show for the simplicity, but it's all sort of trade shows and other industry talks or conferences or any of that sort where you're out talking one to many, or at least have the opportunity to meet a lot of people. I think that sometimes is a European business very first interaction with the United States. You start by visiting a trade show, and then there's a few things that usually happens when a trade show is your first interaction and your first encounter with the United States. You can be unprepared to actually meet the huge amount of people that are overexcited about your technology, and sort of interpret that as there will be a inflow of orders like next Monday. So that's one of the things that usually happens. And then you start meeting people, manufacturers, representatives that will say, oh, we can help you, and yeah, we can certainly cover the entire United States for you, and we can actually also include Canada and Mexico as well. And we already talked to your customers, and it would be so much easier for you if we were your representative here in the US market. And why is that a problem? That sounds as a match made in heaven. So why is it
Well,
sometimes
well, the old saying, if it's too good to be true, it usually is. One of the problems, of course, is that if you do come into a trade show like this and you get this overwhelming, you feel an overwhelming interest, but just see the masses of people and realize how hard it is to separate good from bad, and the people that you need to talk to from the people that you don't need to talk to. And sometimes you'll find yourself in your own trade booth talking to someone and only realizing after a while that they're in fact trying to sell you something. But then someone comes and says, you know what, I can solve your problem, I can help you be successful, we have a ready-made solution for this, all you need to do is sign on the dotted line. And it can almost, it could just be so relieving to have someone say, hey, I see you, I see what your problem is, I can solve it for you. And of course, that should be just the very first step. No different than if you're engaging with a new customer, but that should be the first step in where you're then actually starting to do some due diligence on the person approaching you, saying, hey, I have the fantastic solution to your problem. And where it goes wrong is you're so relieved, you're like, yes, please take this big problem off my hand. It turns out that this is way bigger than we thought it was. It's way more overwhelming. Please help us with this. What can you do to help us? And that's where things start to go a little bit awry.
Yeah, because and you're right, because it really on the surface seems like this is just what we needed. This is the savior coming to solve all our problems. And also, when you're at the trade show or conference in the United States, you're obviously also working overtime, because you're having emails coming in from your European customers, and the back office back home is also bombarding you with emails and things that need to be solved. So sometimes, and I've seen this so many times, making that agreement right then and there seems like the right decision at the moment, because there are so many other things you need to discuss. And you also find out when you're at the trade show that maybe you need some certifications for your technology. Maybe you need your entire marketing collateral translated. Maybe you have, forgotten that United States works with imperial measurements, and we are coming with our collateral in metric length, width, weight, and so on and so forth. All the data and the specs of the material is in a language that the American audience doesn't understand. And somebody, of course, needs to do all this, needs to make it ready for the US market. And sometimes it can seem so So it's a natural step that a partner would help you do that for you. But then what I have experienced, and you may also have your saying on that, Thomas, and most likely it is not where actually the manufacturer's reps see themselves as helping you do this by the end of the day, when when the rubber hits the road and you are ready to actually ship goods to the United States and have this manufacturer's rep go out and talk to your audience. It wasn't actually really what they wanted to do after all. They wouldn't really help you with all this practical stuff that goes into representing your product on the US market. And why is that actually, Thomas? What is
Well,
your
it's
experience of that?
my experience is that manufacturers reps typically have they already have some customers in mind. They already have a bunch of products in mind, and their job isn't really to do the hand holding that's necessary for you to make the translation. And we've talked about this before. Brits and Americans don't speak the same language, and God help you if you're not even an English native speaker. I mean, you're at a significant disadvantage, even though you don't think you are. But the hand holding and the translation and the preparation and the legwork that you really need to do, which starts before you go to the trade show, but all of the things that you learn at the trade show that you then need to do, those aren't the things that the manufacturer's rep will help you with. The manufacturer's rep really is set up to take your product, plug some pictures in their catalog, and then give their catalog to their people who are out on a loop of customers, and they have a territory, they have set customers. They're unlikely to be the ones who say, aha, now we have this really interesting product. We need to go and find a customer that matches with. We need to really sit down and figure out who of our reps would be the best person to discuss the significant benefits of this particular solution. That's really not what they're set up to do. They're more sort of the next step in the sales funnel in nudging someone across the finish line.
That's right. And also sometimes, now you're saying catalog, but that could obviously also be like a physical catalog or a web shop type of setup that they may or may not have. So both, just to make that clear. And also sometimes
and you also say may or may not have. I mean,
exactly.
Certainly there are some who do, whether probably mostly these days virtual, right, rather than a big old physical book. But it's probably fair to assume that there are a good amount of manufacturers reps who don't have a sort of a virtual marketplace where your products are presented.
Yeah, and that actually reminds me, I research like a gazillion websites on an annual basis. And I cannot tell you how many times I have talked to a Danish company, and they say, yeah, we have this representative so-and-so selling our products in the United States market. And then I go to this particular manufacturer's rep or dealer or whatever that may be, and look at their website and say, that's really odd. I don't see this Danish company's products or the brand or the name, or I can't find this technology in their portfolio of solutions and products. So sometimes there's really also a absolute disconnect between what the Danish business understands or think how they're represented and what is actually happening in the market. And that is sometimes also because the rep may have taken on your product just to actually keep it out of the market and actually protect some existing products, competing products that they're actually currently repping today. So you really need to make your due diligence if you go with a manufacturer's rep, and basically on a weekly basis take a look at their website on how, if they are presenting your product on their website, how it's done, and if you are satisfied with the way they are actually portraying your product and solution, and if the description matches what you have agreed, and so on and so forth, because that is definitely also a very well-known challenge if you go to the extent and actually sign an agreement with a manufacturer's rep.
Yeah, and one of the things that we've talked about on several occasions before is also the danger that you perceive things in the lens of where you're coming from.
Hmm.
So if you are accustomed to working with hiring salespeople throughout Europe, and thinking that a manufacturer's rep is in any way similar to the setup that you've had somewhere else in another country with foreign sales reps, that's typically also a mistake. I mean, the basic assumption that the US is Europe, just bigger, faster, and people saying great and terrific a lot more, is one of the reasons that this type of relationship goes wrong. Another thing, you mentioned this about not having the products represented at all. One possible explanation for that, also one less devious explanation for that, is that at some point the manufacturer's rep said that they offered to this new client to pay to be in their product listing, and they said, oh no, we don't need that because we have our own website. And then they're just not presented there. But the bigger problem, though, really is that you don't have a dedicated staff that's trained on your products, that really targets your clients, and it's just without a lot of due diligence and without a lot of preparation and without work to find that you're working with the appropriate manufacturer's rep who actually targets clients that you really could serve well, without identifying maybe a limited number of reps within the organization who would actually get training, then it's probably not going to go as well as you would like to think that it could.
Yeah, and sometimes, bigger is not always better. I vividly recall a company that I worked with back in 2007, and they were so proud. They have reached an agreement with one of the biggest rep firms in the United States. We have 2,500 reps at our fingertips day one, and they were so excited. And they never sold one single thing because they didn't understand how the manufacturer's rep organization actually was onboarding new product and new technologies. So what would have been better was actually to find these 10, 20 reps that are not as commission driven, that are maybe more, have a more solid income and have some good accounts that they are really earning their income, and then are more curious as to new technologies, as opposed to the maybe the younger reps that are really driven by the next month's commission check. So you really need to figure out who is actually who is curious about new innovation, and who is curious about the new technologies, and who is usually the one that are fastest, the fastest one to actually give success to a new onboarded product. So you really need to work very diligent with the product manager at your manufacturer's rep to actually understand how are we actually rolling this out. I mean, the 2,500 reps will probably not serve us good day one, but how can we actually find the 10, 20 ambassadors that will really go out and cheer our products and find some accounts for us that we can try in the United States. So
you bring up a good point as well, with sort of the distinction between the more senior and the more junior reps, because one of the things that's also evident, and I think we've touched on this in previous episodes of Tuesday Talks, is as a new product, as a possible new solution or new approach in the industry or in the market, you may not want to even have someone who is a salesperson who goes out and talks to the buyer. You may need to have somebody who's more senior, who's talking to the people in engineering or planning or strategy, or somebody in a slightly different department. If you have a rep who's going out and who is talking to buyers who are, maybe they're replenishing product, maybe they're just like, well, you know what, we have some machines that are worn out, we need the new version of this. They may not be thinking, hey, we need the new technology that's going to be a leap in how we do things, or just a significant improvement or a different way of doing things. And that may be that you need to talk to the more senior people who can go out and do that in the marketplace for you.
Yeah, and I also think that is segues into another can see challenge that you face. I have experienced companies way too soon, or way too late, actually not too soon, way too late in the collaboration with the manufacturer's rep actually understands what a manufacturer's rep is doing and where this particular rep group that they have engaged with is actually in sort of the value chain, because sometimes the rep group is selling to the end customer, if it's like an industrial product, you're selling to actually the user of the product. But then sometimes manufacturers rep can have built their business on actually just selling to resellers. So we really need to understand where in the value chain is this rep group strong, where do they have their presence in the value chain, because you can really if there is like two different topics in this, they're definitely talking to the wrong people, because every time somebody else needs to tell the story about your product, it's sort of a little bit disappears in the game. And also the pricing, is it pricing right if there's suddenly another pocket that needs to have their cut in the margin on the product's way to the end user. So it's definitely really crucial to understand how is their rep organization structured and how are they selling? Are they selling to resellers, or are they selling to end users? And way too often, way too late, the Danish company understand actually where the rep group is in this particular value chain.
Yeah, and I've had similar experiences where I've been in contact with Danish company in particular, where they engage with a manufacturer's rep, and they did some of the work. Unfortunately, what they did was, they told them specific customers that they wanted to talk to. Unfortunately, what they didn't do was ensure that this particular rep already had the connections to this particular end user. And so they ended up paying them, getting a dedicated person, but this was completely new ground for that person. They didn't have any connections with the end user. And so they ended up spending a lot of money and not getting any results for it in the end at all. So.
And also another thing that we usually are, because in Denmark we need to be agile. I think we have said this maybe one too many times, but we need to be agile. We need to sell to multiple different verticals. But in the United States, one rep within the rep group or the rep group itself is usually very, very direct focused on one particular vertical. The ones that are approaching private companies will definitely not be the one, most likely not be the one that are also targeting, for example, the public sector in the United States, if that's such a thing. Almost never you see the same rep going to two different, so distinct different customer types and verticals, and also the rep group, almost regardless what they are saying, is that they will most likely never be nationwide. They will have a regional approach. So regardless what they're saying, and that's obviously why if somebody from and they are placed on the East Coast and somebody from the West Coast is calling, then they obviously will not say no to an order. But it's crucial to understand what are they going out and where do they have their relationships, and where do they proactively go out and sell on Monday. Is that a regional approach? Is that for the private industry, for the public utilities, or where they actually proactively going out and spending their you can say sales mileage with their reps? That is really crucial to understand how narrow segmented each and every rep group is, and then under the rep group, each and every individual is focused depending on obviously how big the rep group is. So that is super important to understand.
But on that fine note, though, I mean, we've talked a lot about some of the difficulties and the challenges, and one thing that is true though is it is a possibility. It is a way that you can be successful. I think the biggest takeaway for me though is, as with several other aspects of engaging with the U.S. market, that you sort of need to dip your toes in. You need to figure out where to start, and you need to start one place. You can't see the U.S. as one big market. I mean, I tell people this all the time. I mean, we're 50 states, 2 of which aren't landfast with the other ones. It's an enormous area. And one of the things is, and you and I have talked about this, companies engaging with the U.S. market, the senior leadership should be sort of required to take a drive just from New York to Miami, just to see the sheer scale of it. And once you've done that, you realize that you can't attack like the East Coast or like half the country or the whole country at the same time. But when you do go to the trade shows, you get all these business cards, and someone comes to you and says, "Hey, I think we can solve the problem." See that as a starting point, and start the dialogue, and ask the tough questions. And if you start with the approach that they may be able to help us with something, but they're not going to be the savior who saves the day and who now immediately catapults us to success, but this could be the company that helps us move one step forward. And we sort of started talking a little bit about this, but if you find someone who you identify as a manufacturer's rep who does in fact have the customer relationships and sits in the value chain where you would like to be represented, then you can start the conversation with them and say, well, listen, we'd like to have some dedicated reps, and we understand that they're going to have to take some time. They're going to have to learn our product. They may have to make some unsuccessful calls. Figure out what's it going to take. Is it that you send someone to a meeting with these hand-picked reps to conduct some training? Do you pay them some sort of salary, some sort of allowance where they will take on some calls? They will introduce, maybe they bring some of your people. Maybe what the solution is would be for these reps to identify some customers, to identify buyers, technical people, whoever it might be, who they think would benefit from seeing your products, your solutions, and someone from your team flies in and goes on those calls with them. But to find a solution, it's probably going to be some sort of hybrid between what the manufacturer's rep is currently doing and what you are currently doing or what you've done before, because you're new to the market, they're new to your products, and their customers don't know you and don't know your products at all. One other thing to take into consideration always is, if someone's going to purchase a new solution, to implement a new product, whatever it might be, and if it's a solution from Europe, some companies are going to be like, well, yeah, we've been looking for this European solution for a long time. But a lot of other companies are going to be like, well, it's interesting. We're definitely looking to do something like this, but we have questions. And so you have to be able to answer these questions. Are your products going to be in stock? How are they going to be serviced? What if there are technical problems? What's going to be the follow-up? And these are conversations that are important to have. And maybe this manufacturer's rep can help you with this. But if you see it more as a starting point, and this is going to be something that's going to help you build, now you're on a better course.
Exactly. And it's actually, it segues very well into sort of the next part of our talk, is when things go right. What is a good approach to actually engage with the manufacturer's rep? And I think we can start by saying, it's about really let's take the example that you were at a trade show and somebody approached you and say, we're a manufacturers rep group, we would like to sell your product, or you have the random talk in the bar at a hotel lobby at evening, tired and worn out and overwhelmed by the United States market, and somebody in the conversation it comes up that there is a rep group that can represent you. The good solution is actually to have a rep questionnaire, partnership questionnaire. So the rep actually need to sort of fill out some well thought out information that you have drafted before you went to the trade show about the rep group. Where are they in the value chain? How many reps do they have? What customers are they usually serving, and what type of products are they usually serving? So you can actually see whether that's competing products or complementary products to your technology, and what they expect to actually, what turnover they expect to reach for them, for it to be worthwhile for their investment as well. Because obviously, if that's a good rep group, they will need to make an investment in adopting your product as well. So these types of questions are super good as a starting point. So when things are busy at the trade show booth, then you can just give them this questionnaire and say, we would love to hear from you. Please fill out this questionnaire, or even better, have a link to send them to your website so they can actually fill out a questionnaire. Because not only does it serve that you understand a little bit more whether that rep group is a good rep group for you, but you also can sort of take a step back and say, we will evaluate when we come home from the trade show, and we will see, we have a lot of interest for our product, but we will actually make an assessment when we come home between the companies that have approached us and see who is the best fit for us. Then you suddenly have you have the overhand in this game, and they are not offering their service to you. You are selecting them as a good fit for your company.
Exactly right.
Yeah, and also
make the choice in advance of, and give yourself the time
exactly
to make choices. Because you may have somebody approach you on the first day of this trade show, and the second and the third and the fourth day, however many days it is, and you don't want to have said yes to the first company approaching you when the person on the 15 minutes before closing on the last day, that's the company that was really the best fit.
Exactly. And also very important is to actually understand sort of the payment, because we need to understand also the manufacturer's rep are these 5% guys. They are the ones earning their income based on commission. So you really need to give it a thought, how are we actually going to pay these guys commission? Is it on goods sold or goods paid, or what if there is a complaint, and what if they give a discount? What is the basis of the commission to the manufacturer's rep? And again, like in any other case, it's better that you actually have your own decision, or the company from Denmark or from Europe have its own decision on what it is they want to pay the manufacturer's rep. But on the other hand, also understand that their business opportunity, which is sort of the potential income from your business, is absolutely corresponding with the energy and the investment and the enthusiasm that they will put into bring your products to in front of their customers. And because we need to understand, they have maybe 15 minutes FaceTime with a customer, and they want to sell the products that they understand, that they're comfortable with within their comfort zone, so they know that that commission will get on their next paycheck. So we really need to understand what drives actually these manufacturers rep. And if our sales targets are too modest, then it might be too unattractive for the right manufacturers rep. So that
you also want to make sure that you have the attention of the manufacturers rep.
Oh yeah, totally.
I have personally worked at a company that took on a new business line, and this was discussed in all the sales meetings. I was on the sales staff, It was discussed in all the sales meetings, and it was in fact the sales line that I represented, and they'd acquired a company which I worked for, that I was brought in. I was still in the sales staff in the new company. Come to find that one of my target companies was being served by the existing product line by another sales rep, and once we were sort of sorting out like who the targets were and what my target list was, and I was dealing with this with my boss, came up to the sales manager, and this other guy became very irate because he's like, no, this is my customer. There's no way that we can allow Thomas to talk to him. But he had literally been walking right by those products. And this was now 3 months into my tenure there. And they said, well, you've been walking by these products for 3 months after we've been talking about them for 3 months. So no, you don't get to keep them.
Exactly.
But this lesson of the story though is, even if you have this conversation with the reps, even if you have you've got some incentives going, you still need sort of your follow-up needs to be your middle name. You need to follow up with them on a regular basis and find out like, how often do we need to talk to them, and is that even the right cadence? But you need to just keep talking to them over and over and reminding them, here we are, we have this incentive in place for you. We'd like you to sell this product. We'd like you to present it this way, and be creative with how you incentivize them, and be creative with how and when you communicate with them, because being top of mind with the reps is important, because if you're not, you mentioned the 5% guys. It reminds me of the Pareto principle, the 80-20, you make 80% of your income from 20% of the products you represent. And it's something that you should be thinking about is, how are you going to be in that group of products or solutions that these reps, even when you've identified dedicated reps, how are you so attractive to them that they are really thinking about your company and your products and solutions constantly when they're in front of customers?
Absolutely. And you say also be creative with the incentives, and here I definitely think you mean that also the incentives that are not sort of turnover driven or sales driven,
yes,
but activity driven. How many lunch and learn can you have, or can you attend a small local trade show with our product, or can you have another one-to-many meeting, or how can we make a splash in the market? Because generally we come to United States with as European companies with at least compared to United States market, sometimes modest marketing budgets. So we need to do something different. We need to be clever with our marketing budget, and maybe if you can find these 5, 10, 20 ambassadors within the rep group, then really do some incentives for those guys to actually make some activities that can bring your product in front of the decision makers. So that is what you and I mean when we say the creative incentives that are not sales driven.
And one of the things about this, and you mentioned having ambassadors, because it's the appropriate term, because not just to have somebody who is a salesperson, because it's almost more like a salesperson or a manufacturer's rep is someone who is driving sales of an existing known product.
Exactly.
But these ambassadors could also be an excellent source of information and feedback from the market, where your company might have had a market research, market report or something conducted where it says like, oh yeah, there's definitely a market for these products. But these ambassadors who are out in the marketplace and who are talking to customers, they might be the ones who can tell you, sure, there's a marketplace for it. But if you want to get to the people who really make decisions about this, well, you need to be at this smaller regional trade show, or you want to do, like you said, like you want to do a lunch and learn for this association, because then you talk to the right people. And also in terms of the incentives and putting things together is, you know, when you have these events and you have the opportunity to talk to people that you've identified as your ambassadors, you can also then ask them, it's like, well, when is a good time for us to send somebody from Denmark to do a ride along, to attend some of these events, whether they're lunch and learns or more like regionally focused trade shows.
Absolutely. And also the incentivizing the ambassadors to actually give you that particular feedback. And because that was also where you can say, yeah, now in California or in Massachusetts, there's actually this new regulation that actually sort of helps your product or prevents your product from being sold on the market. But I guess it was about time to it's for us to wrap up. But I guess sort of it sums up to, you can't sleep on the laurels. When you have an agreement with a manufacturer's rep, you have made your due diligence on it, that's the right one, then that's where your work as a company also starts. You know, there's no such thing as saying, yeah, we have a manufacturer's rep, you know, they can figure out how they want to deal with the American market. That is definitely not.
Just remember that you didn't come to the US market to get a manufacturer's rep. You came to the US market to sell your products and solutions.
Exactly. So if we should do, yeah.
I think this might be then a good time to end up with the 3 tips we discussed. One, of course, from my perspective, as also a licensed attorney here, is make sure you have an agreement about what you're doing with this manufacturer's rep. Make sure it's in writing, and please, for God's sake, don't let it be their agreement. If you're not represented, if you don't have an attorney in the US, find one, go through your network, go through your LinkedIn, see who you know in the US, talk to other people you know, but don't just sign their agreement, and especially not without counsel, but get a good agreement and get it in writing.
Yep, that was number 1. And then number 2 is sort of make due diligence of your manufacturer's rep. And make sure they are talking to the right customers, the customers that you in your market research have identified as the ideal customer for your product, that is driven by whatever your technology and product can actually solve. The one that are on the lookout for this particular solution that you can be able to deliver to them. The one that are hungry for new and innovative technologies. So yeah. So make sure that you are talking to those guys.
On the third one we've talked about, you mentioned also about having a rep questionnaire, but prepare to meet the reps. So have a pitch deck, have the questionnaire that you mentioned, new onboarding requirements, like what some training materials about your product, but be prepared to engage with a manufacturer's rep before you do. I mean, preparing in advance is going to make you a lot more successful after the engagement.
Fantastic. I guess that was our 40+ minutes on one of the important topics for Danish businesses to become successful in the United States. Who is actually your hands and feet on the US ground. And I hope that everybody enjoyed our talk, and we will send it out to you guys in a recorded format. And I guess that was all for now. There has not been raised any questions in the chat. So any last comments, Thomas?
Nothing from me, just wishing you a wonderful evening in Denmark.
Thank you, and the same to you. And thank you everyone for joining. Have a wonderful day.
Have a great day.
Bye.